It was supposed to be a fresh start, the dawn of a new year filled with promise and the joy of impending motherhood. But on New Year's Day her world shattered. Accused of betrayal by the man she loved, kicked out into the biting cold with nothing but the clothes on her back and the child growing inside her. Freezing, alone, desperate. Until fate intervened in the form of the city's most dangerous protector. Hey everyone, if this hook has you on the edge of your seat, drop a like and subscribe for more gripping tales. Quick question, where are you watching from right now? And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were kicked out in the freezing cold on a holiday? Fight back, seek help, or something else? Let's discuss. The snow fell in thick, relentless curtains over Manhattan, transforming the city into a glittering prison of ice and shadow. Inside the brownstone on the Upper West Side, the warmth should have been a sanctuary. Should have been. But as Zara Mitchell stood in the doorway of what had been her home for 3 years, her hand instinctively cradling the swell of her 8-month pregnant belly, she felt nothing but the creeping cold of betrayal seeping into her bones. "Derek, please." Her voice cracked, desperation threading through the syllables. "Just listen to me. I don't even know who that man is." Her husband, Dr. Derek Mitchell, renowned cardiothoracic surgeon, the man who'd promised her forever beneath the cherry blossoms in Brooklyn Botanical Garden, stood across the hardwood floor like a stranger. His jaw was set, his eyes red-rimmed and wild, and in his trembling hands he clutched a manila envelope like it contained the secrets of the universe. "Don't." The word came out as a hiss. "Don't insult me with more lies, Zara." He threw the envelope at her feet. Photographs spilled out across the floor, images of her laughing with a man she'd never seen before, sitting too close at what appeared to be a hotel bar, his hand on her arm. Another showed them entering an elevator together. They were expertly crafted lies, but lies nonetheless. "That's not me. I mean it is, but it's doctored or something. Derek, I've never been to that hotel. I've never seen that man in my life." Zara's voice rose, panic clawing at her throat. She took a step forward, but Derek recoiled as if she carried plague. "I saw the hotel charges on a credit card I didn't recognize. In your purse." His voice dropped to something dangerous and broken. "And then these showed up at the hospital. Someone wanted me to know what kind of woman I married. Someone is setting me up. Can't you see that?" Zara's hands shook. "Baby, please. I love you. I've only ever loved you. Why would I? Because you're bored? Because I worked too much? Because you wanted something I couldn't give you?" Each accusation landed like a physical blow. "Or maybe you never loved me at all." Behind Derek, Zara could see his mother, Beatrice Mitchell, wringing her hands in the living room, her face a mask of conflicted anguish. The older woman had welcomed Zara into the family with genuine warmth 3 years ago, had been overjoyed about the baby, but now she stood silent, a witness to the destruction of her son's marriage. "Derek, it's New Year's Eve," Beatrice finally ventured, her cultured voice small. "Perhaps everyone should calm down, sleep on this?" "No, mother." Derek's laugh was harsh, ugly. "She doesn't get to sleep here. Not tonight. Not ever again." Zara felt the world tilt. "You can't be serious. I'm 8 months pregnant. It's below freezing outside. You should have thought about that before you opened your legs for someone else." The slap of his words hit harder than any hand could. Zara had known Derek could be cold when stressed, had seen him withdraw during bad days at the hospital, but this cruelty was something new and terrifying. Something desperate. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that 3 weeks ago, Derek had sat across from a loan shark in a basement in Koreatown, his gambling debts having finally caught up with him. $200,000 owed to an organization that didn't forgive or forget. The man across from him had been polite, almost gentle, as he'd explained that Dr. Mitchell's debt could be erased. All he had to do was throw his wife out. Publicly. Dramatically. Create a scandal. "Why?" Derek had asked, his voice hollow. "Because someone wants her vulnerable," the man had replied. "And because you're going to do it, or we'll make sure you never hold a scalpel again." Among other things. Now, standing in his foyer, Derek couldn't meet Zara's eyes. Couldn't let himself see the truth of her innocence or the shame would consume him. "Get out." His voice was granite. "Get out of my house." "Our house, Derek. Our baby. Is it even mine?" The question hung in the air like poison. Zara's hand flew to her belly, protective, furious. For a moment, grief transformed into rage. "You know what? Maybe I should leave. Because the man I married would never ask me that question. The man I married knew me. Trusted me. Loved me." She moved past him toward the stairs, intent on grabbing clothes, her phone, something, but Derek blocked her path. No. You leave with what you have on. Right now. Derek, be reasonable, Beatrice tried again. Now. He grabbed Zara's arm, not roughly but firmly, and steered her toward the front door. She struggled, tears streaming down her face, her wool cardigan and leggings offering no protection against what awaited outside. My coat. Derek, at least let me get my coat. She could hear the hysteria creeping into her voice. My phone. My purse. But he was already opening the door, and the winter wind rushed in like an invading army, stealing her breath. Snow swirled into the foyer, melting on the warm wood. Figure it out. Like you figured out how to sneak around behind my back. And then she was on the stoop, and the door was slamming behind her, and the sound of the deadbolt sliding home was the loneliest sound she'd ever heard. Zara stood there for a moment, unable to process what had just happened. Her breath came in visible puffs, already her fingers tingling with cold. The street was empty, silent except for the whisper of snow. It was after midnight, New Year's Day now technically. Somewhere in the distance she could hear the faint echo of celebration, people welcoming new beginnings while her world ended. She had no phone, no money, no coat, and nowhere to go. Her mother, Lydia, lived in Baltimore, hours away, and Zara had no way to contact her. Her closest friend was out of the country for the holidays. The shelters would be full on a night like this, and even if they weren't, she wasn't sure she could make it to one before hypothermia set in. The baby kicked, strong and insistent, and Zara felt a sob tear from her chest. I'm sorry, baby girl, she whispered, her hand on her belly. Mama's going to figure this out. I promise. She started walking, her thin flats immediately soaking through on the snow-covered sidewalk. Each step was agony, the cold seeping through her clothes like icy fingers. She needed to find somewhere warm, a deli, a subway entrance, anything. But the streets were deserted, businesses closed for the holiday. Her teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue, tasting blood. The wind cut through her cardigan like it wasn't there, and she wrapped her arms around herself, trying desperately to conserve warmth, to protect the life inside her. 10 blocks. She made it 10 blocks before her legs gave out. Zara collapsed against a shuttered storefront, sliding down the metal grating until she was sitting on the frozen sidewalk. She couldn't feel her feet anymore. Her hands were white, fingers stiff. The shivering had become violent, uncontrollable. Stay awake, she told herself through numb lips. Have to stay awake. But the cold was seductive, whispering promises of rest, of sleep. Her eyes drifted closed. She didn't hear the black Mercedes pull up to the curb. Didn't hear the car door open or the rapid footsteps approaching. What finally penetrated her fading consciousness was a voice, deep, accented, urgent. Miss? Miss, can you hear me? Warm hands touched her face and she struggled to open her eyes. Through the haze of snowflakes and encroaching darkness, she saw him. A man in an expensive black coat, his sharp features etched with concern, dark eyes wide with recognition. It's you, he said, and there was wonder in his voice. I've been looking for you. Then everything went dark. Minho Park carried the unconscious woman to his car with the care one might afford precious cargo. His driver, June, already had the heat blasting, and Minho settled her across the back seat, removing his coat to drape over her trembling form. Hospital, June said, but Minho shook his head. Dr. Kang's clinic. Call ahead. Tell her it's an emergency, hypothermia, heavily pregnant. Move. As the Mercedes sped through the empty streets, Minho studied the woman's face, memorizing features he'd searched for across the city for 3 months. The woman who'd saved his sister's life at that charity gala, who'd performed the Heimlich maneuver with calm efficiency when Ji-Yun had choked on a piece of steak. The woman who'd disappeared before he could thank her, leaving only a first name with the event's staff, Zara. And now here she was, nearly frozen to death on New Year's Day, clearly pregnant, clearly in trouble. Minho Park hadn't built his empire by ignoring opportunity or failing to recognize when fate dealt him a hand worth playing. But as he watched Zara's lips slowly regain color, as her shivering began to subside in the warmth of the car, he felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Something that had nothing to do with debt or honor or business. Something dangerous. Dr. Kang's private clinic occupied the 3rd floor of a nondescript building in Koreatown, the kind of place that didn't advertise and didn't ask questions. Minho had invested in the facility years ago, ensuring his organization had access to medical care without the complications of hospital reporting requirements. Dr. Sarah Kang herself was beyond reproach, a brilliant physician who'd returned from Johns Hopkins to serve the Korean community, both its legitimate members and those like Minho who operated in the shadows. She was waiting when they arrived, her med team already prepped. Vitals first, Dr. Kong ordered as they transferred Zara to an examination table. Core temperature, fetal heartbeat, blood pressure. Start warming protocols. Slowly, we don't want to shock her system. Minho stepped back, letting the professionals work, but his eyes never left Zara's face. In the harsh clinical lighting, he could see the tear tracks on her brown skin, the exhaustion etched into features that should have been glowing with the joy of impending motherhood. Instead, she looked shattered. Core temp is 89 degrees, a nurse called out. Moderate hypothermia. BP is elevated but stable. Fetal heartbeat is, a pause. 140. Strong and regular. Good. Dr. Kong worked with practiced efficiency, starting in 4, wrapping Zara in warming blankets. She'll need to be monitored for at least 24 hours. Any idea how long she was out there? No. Minho's voice was clipped. But I want to know why. Everything. Background, family, employment. And I want to know who did this to her. June, who'd followed them in, nodded and stepped away, already on his phone. Within Minho's organization, such requests were executed with speed and discretion. 30 minutes later, as Zara began to stir, Minho received the first report. June handed him a tablet, and what Minho read made his jaw tighten with fury. Zara Mitchell, née Williams. 29 years old. Event planner for premier occasions, one of Manhattan's top firms. Married 3 years to Dr. Derek Mitchell, cardiothoracic surgeon at Mount Sinai. By all accounts, a stable, successful couple. No criminal record, no financial troubles on her end. But Derek Mitchell was another story. Gambling debts, June murmured, quiet enough that only Minho could hear. 200,000 to one of Sung-ho's operations. The debt was marked, satisfied, 3 weeks ago with a notation, special arrangement. Sung-ho. Of course. Sung-ho Choi ran a rival organization, one that had been encroaching on Minho's territory for the past year. The man was ambitious, ruthless, and lacking the honor code that still governed parts of the Korean underground. Where Minho drew lines, no human trafficking, no drugs in schools, no targeting families, Sung-ho saw only opportunity. There's more, June continued, scrolling down. Security footage from a hotel lobby 3 weeks ago shows Derek Mitchell meeting with one of Sung-ho's lieutenants. And hospital staff report that Mitchell received a package the day before yesterday, manila envelope, no return address. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Sung-ho had leveraged Derek's debts to orchestrate this. But why target Zara specifically? Unless. The gala, Minho said softly. Sung-ho knows I've been looking for her. He knows what she did for Ji-yeon. In their world, debts of honor were taken seriously. Zara had saved Minho's sister's life, and Minho had been searching for her for 3 months to properly thank her, to offer his protection and patronage. It wasn't about romance or attraction, though looking at her now, Minho couldn't deny there was something compelling about her strength, her grace. It was about code. About honor. About the old ways that Minho's father had taught him. Sung-ho, who respected nothing and no one, had seen an opportunity to strike at Minho through the woman he owed a life debt. Make her vulnerable, put her in danger, force Minho to expose himself or lose face among the community that still valued such traditions. It was clever. It was despicable. It was going to cost Sung-ho everything. Boss. June's voice pulled him back. She's waking up. Minho moved to the bedside as Zara's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, confusion clouded her features, then fear, then a desperate alertness as her hand flew to her belly. The baby, she gasped, trying to sit up, is fine. Dr. Kong appeared at her other side, gently pressing her back down. Strong heartbeat, active movement. You're both going to be okay, but you need to rest. Zara's eyes darted around the room, taking in the medical equipment, the unfamiliar surroundings, finally landing on Minho. Who are you? Where am I? My name is Minho Park. He kept his voice gentle, non-threatening. You're at a private medical clinic. I found you on the street, brought you here. You were suffering from hypothermia. Recognition flickered across her face. You said you'd been looking for me. 3 months ago at the Waldorf Astoria. You saved my sister's life when she was choking. I wanted to thank you, but you'd left before I could find you. Zara's brow furrowed, memory surfacing. The Korean woman in the red dress. She was sitting at table 12. I remember, everyone was panicking and she was turning blue and I just reacted. You did more than react. You saved her. And in my family, such debts are not forgotten. Minho pulled a chair close to the bed, settling into it with the fluid grace of a predator at rest. Which is why I need you to tell me what happened tonight. Who did this to you? Fresh tears welled in Zara's eyes, and she turned her face away. My husband. He thinks I cheated on him. There were photos, evidence. But I swear I didn't. Someone set me up. I know. Her head snapped back toward him. What? Your husband has gambling debts. $200,000, owed to a very dangerous man named Sung-Ho Choi. 3 weeks ago, those debts were forgiven in exchange for what they called a special arrangement. I believe that arrangement was for your husband to publicly evict you, to make you vulnerable and desperate. Zara stared at him, processing. But why? Why would anyone care about me? Because you saved my sister and I've been looking for you. Because in certain circles I have a reputation for honoring debts. Sung-Ho is a rival. He saw an opportunity to create a situation that would force my hand, expose my movements, perhaps even compromise my position. So I'm what? Bait. The hurt in her voice cut deeper than the anger. You were supposed to be. But Sung-Ho made a critical miscalculation. What's that? Minho leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. He assumed I would only protect you out of obligation. He didn't account for the fact that I might actually give a damn about what happens to you beyond some code of honor. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with implications neither was ready to fully explore. Dr. Kong cleared her throat diplomatically. Mrs. Mitchell needs rest. Her core temperature is still below normal, and the stress she's endured could trigger premature labor. I'm recommending 48 hours of observation. No. Zara struggled to sit up again. I can't stay here. I need to figure out where to go, what to do. My mom is in Baltimore. If I could just borrow a phone. You'll stay here tonight, then move to my penthouse where you can be properly protected, Minho said, his tone brooking no argument. I don't even know you. You know I'm the man who found you freezing to death and brought you to safety. You know I'm the brother of the woman you saved. And you know that right now you have very few options. His voice softened. I'm not your enemy, Zara. And I'm not asking for anything from you except the chance to ensure you and your baby are safe. Why? The question was barely a whisper. Why do you care? Minho was quiet for a long moment, considering his answer. Finally he said, because 3 months ago you didn't hesitate to help a stranger. You saw someone in danger and you acted. No thought for yourself, no calculation of benefit. Just pure, instinctive compassion. He met her eyes. The world has precious little of that. And I'll be damned if I let it be punished. Zara's shoulders shook as she began to cry, deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from somewhere primal. Dr. Kong moved to comfort her, but Minho held up a hand. Let her, he said quietly. She's earned the right to break. And break she did, all the fear and betrayal and shock of the past hours pouring out in waves. Through it all, Minho sat silent vigil, a dark guardian in an expensive suit, already making plans. By morning, Derek Mitchell would understand the magnitude of his mistake. By week's end, Sung-Ho Choi would realize he'd declared war on the wrong man. But for now, Minho simply waited, letting Zara Mitchell grieve for the life that had been stolen from her, even as he quietly vowed to ensure she'd have the chance to build something better. Outside, snow continued to fall on New York City, covering the old year's sins in pristine white. But in a clinic in Koreatown, seeds of something new were taking root. Alliances forged in crisis, debts that transcended obligation, and the first fragile threads of trust between two people from vastly different worlds. Fate, Minho reflected, had a peculiar sense of timing. And he had never been one to waste an opportunity. The first contraction hit at 4:47 a.m. Zara woke with a gasp, her hands flying to her belly as a band of pressure tightened across her abdomen, not quite pain yet, but insistent, unmistakable. For a moment she was disoriented, the unfamiliar room swimming into focus. Clinical white walls, the soft beep of monitors, the 4-line trailing from her arm. Then memory crashed back. Derek. The cold. The stranger who'd saved her. No, she whispered to the life inside her. Not yet, baby. It's too soon. You need more time. But her body had other plans. Another contraction rolled through her, stronger this time, and she fumbled for the call button Dr. Kong had left on the bedside table. Within seconds a nurse appeared, took one look at Zara's face and called for the doctor. Dr. Kong arrived in less than a minute, already snapping orders. How far apart? That was only the second one. Maybe 5 minutes. Get an ultrasound in here. Page the NICU at Presbyterian, tell them we may have a 32-weeker coming in. And someone find Mr. Park. The next hour was a blur of examinations, urgent voices, and mounting panic. Zara was 8 months pregnant, 32 weeks exactly, and while babies born at this stage often survived, they faced serious complications. Respiratory distress, infection, developmental delays. The stress triggered it, Dr. Kong explained, her voice calm even as her team moved with controlled urgency around them. The hypothermia, the emotional trauma, your body went into protective mode. We're going to try to slow the labor, give you steroids for the baby's lungs. It's not going to work, is it? Zara could feel it deep in her bones. Her daughter was coming, ready or not. Dr. Kang's hesitation was answer enough. Minho appeared in the doorway like a wraith, still in his clothes from the night before, his eyes immediately finding Zara's. What do you need? The question wasn't directed at the medical staff. It was for her. I'm scared, Zara admitted, her voice breaking. I'm so scared. He crossed the room in 3 strides, taking her hand without hesitation. His palm was warm, solid, anchoring. You're not alone. I'm here. Whatever you need. You don't have to. I know. His dark eyes were intense, unwavering. I'm here anyway. Another contraction hit, harder, stealing her breath. Zara squeezed Minho's hand with crushing force and he didn't flinch, just leaned closer, his voice low and steady. Breathe through it. You're stronger than this pain. Breathe. She focused on his voice, on the unexpected anchor of his presence, and somehow made it through. The labor progressed with frightening speed. Within 3 hours, Zara was fully dilated, her body insisting that ready or not, this baby was coming. They'd transferred her to the clinic's small surgical suite, the best option given the circumstances. An ambulance stood ready outside to transport mother and baby to a full hospital if needed, but Dr. Kong had delivered hundreds of babies, including complicated cases. This is what we're going to do, the doctor explained. You're going to push when I tell you. We have a neonatal team standing by. The moment your baby is born, they're going to assess her, possibly intubate if she's not breathing well on her own. It's going to be scary, but it's also going to be okay. Understand? Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. I want her to be okay. Please, she has to be okay. Then help me get her here safely. Dr. Kong moved into position. Mr. Park, if you're staying, you need to be at her head, supporting her. Can you do that? Minho looked to Zara, a question in his eyes. She nodded, and he positioned himself behind her, letting her lean back against his chest, his arms supporting her. Okay, Zara, Dr. Kong said. Next contraction, I need you to push. What followed was primal, brutal, transcendent. Zara had taken birthing classes, had read all the books, thought she understood what labor would be like. But nothing prepared her for the reality, the tearing sensation, the overwhelming pressure, the animal sounds that tore from her throat. Through it all, Minho was there, his voice in her ear. You can do this. Push. Breathe. Again. You're doing it. He'd witnessed violence, had inflicted it himself when necessary. He'd seen men broken, had orchestrated operations that would give others nightmares. But watching Zara bring life into the world, feeling her shake with effort against him, hearing her cry out, this was a different kind of intensity. Raw. Sacred. I can see the head. Dr. Kong called. One more big push, Zara. Give me everything you have. Zara bore down with a scream that seemed to come from her soul, and suddenly there was release, a rush, and Dr. Kong was lifting a tiny, impossibly small form. A baby girl. Silent. The room held its breath. Lily, because Zara had already named her, had whispered the name to her belly during those long nights when Derek worked late, was gray-blue, her tiny chest still. The neonatal team swarmed immediately, one nurse suctioning her airway while another began rapid stimulation, rubbing her chest, her back. Come on, little one, Dr. Kong murmured, working with practiced efficiency. Come on. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Zara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Minho's arms tightened around her, and she realized he was shaking too. 20 seconds. Then, weak as a kitten's mule but unmistakable, a cry. Lily's tiny fists waved, her chest expanding with that first crucial breath, and the room exploded into controlled action. The team worked to stabilize her, checking vitals, administering oxygen, wrapping her in warming blankets. She's breathing on her own, the neonatal nurse called out. Heart rate's good. We're at 4 pounds 2 ounces. Apgar is 6. Let me see her, Zara sobbed. Please, let me see my baby. They brought Lily over for just a moment, long enough for Zara to see her daughter's scrunched face, her shock of dark hair, her impossibly tiny fingers. Long enough to press a kiss to that downy head. She's beautiful, Minho said, and there was wonder in his voice. She's perfect. We need to get her to the NICU, Dr. Kong said gently. She's stable but premature. She needs monitoring, possibly respiratory support. Presbyterian has the best level 3 unit in the city. The ambulance is ready. I want to go with her. You will. But you need stitches first and you've lost some blood. 20 minutes, Zara. Then we'll transport you both. Those 20 minutes felt like an eternity. As Dr. Kong worked to repair the damage of delivery, Zara stared at the ceiling, exhaustion and adrenaline warring in her system. Minho had stepped away to make phone calls, his voice a low rumble in the hallway. When he returned, his face was grim. What? Zara asked, alarm cutting through her fog. Derek showed up at your mother's house in Baltimore an hour ago. He's looking for you. How did he? He's desperate. Panicking. My people are watching him, but Zara, there's something you need to know. Minho moved closer, his voice dropping. Derek met with Sungho's people again last night, after he threw you out. The surveillance shows him trying to back out of their arrangement, asking where you were. They threatened him. So he does care? The hope in her voice was pathetic and she hated herself for it. I don't know what he feels. But I know that you and your daughter are not safe until this situation is resolved. I'm having my men block Derek from the hospital. He doesn't get near either of you until we know what's happening. You can't just. I can and I am. Minho's voice was steel wrapped in silk. He put you in danger. He doesn't get the privilege of your trust until he earns it back, if he ever can. Zara wanted to argue, wanted to defend the man she'd married, but the words wouldn't come. Because Minho was right. Derek had thrown her into the snow, pregnant, without even a coat. Whatever his reasons, whatever pressures he'd faced, he'd made a choice. And choices had consequences. The ambulance ride to Mount Sinai was surreal. Zara lay on a gurney, Lily in an incubator beside her attended by the neonatal team, while Minho sat at her head, one hand resting near hers, not holding, not presuming, just there. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. Which part? All of it. You don't owe me this much. Saving my life repaid whatever debt you felt from the gala. But staying for the birth, protecting me from Derek, arranging all of this. She gestured weakly at the ambulance, the team. Why? Minho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible over the siren. My father used to say that honor isn't about keeping score. It's about doing what's right when no one is watching, when there's no benefit to yourself. He met her eyes. You're alone, vulnerable, and you've been betrayed by the person who should have protected you most. If I walked away now, what kind of man would I be? A normal one. This isn't your problem. No, he agreed. It's not. But maybe it could be my purpose. For now at least. Before Zara could respond, they were pulling into the hospital bay, and the organized chaos of transfer took over. Lily was rushed to the NICU, Zara to a recovery room, and through it all Minho's people, discreet, professional, invisible to hospital staff, took up positions. Guarding. Protecting. Watching. Because in the shadows of New York's underworld, word was already spreading. Minho Park had taken a woman and her child under his protection. And anyone who threatened them would answer to him personally. Sungho Choi, receiving this news in his office in Flushing, smiled slowly. Everything was proceeding exactly as he'd hoped. The NICU was a world unto itself, a hushed cathedral of beeping monitors and soft light, where the smallest humans fought the biggest battles. Zara sat beside Lily's incubator, her hand through the portal touching her daughter's impossibly tiny foot, and marveled at the strength in such fragility. Lily had been stable for 18 hours now. Breathing on her own with only supplemental oxygen, maintaining her temperature, even attempting to nurse through a feeding tube. The neonatologist, Dr. Patel, had been cautiously optimistic. She's a fighter, Dr. Patel had said during rounds. 32-weekers often struggle more than this. Your daughter has spirit. She gets it from her mother, Minho had murmured from his position against the wall, and Zara had felt something warm unfurl in her chest despite everything. He'd been there almost constantly, a dark sentinel in expensive clothes that looked absurd in the pastel-colored NICU. The nurses had initially tried to enforce the two-visitor rule, but one quiet conversation with hospital administration had resolved that. Zara didn't ask what strings he'd pulled. She was too grateful for his presence. You should go home, she said now, not looking away from Lily. Get some real sleep. You've been here for almost 2 days straight. I own a hotel 3 blocks from here. When I need sleep, I'll get it. He approached the incubator, studying Lily with the same intensity he brought to everything. Besides, June reports that Derek is still trying to get into the hospital. Someone should be here. As if summoned by the mention, Zara's phone, replaced by one of Minho's people, buzzed with a call from an unknown number. She stared at it, paralyzed. "Answer it," Minho said quietly. "You'll need to deal with him eventually." With shaking hands, Zara accepted the call. "Hello? Zara." "Oh God, Zara." Derek's voice was wrecked, raw with emotion. "I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. Are you okay? Is the baby?" "Her name is Lily." Zara's voice was ice. "And she's alive, no thanks to you. She was born premature because I went into labor from stress and hypothermia. Do you understand? Your daughter is in the NICU because you threw me into the snow." Silence. Then, "I didn't know. I didn't think." "You didn't think I'd actually freeze to death? You didn't think there'd be consequences?" The anger felt good clean. "What did you think would happen, Derek?" "I was scared. The people I owed money to, they said if I didn't do it, they'd hurt you anyway. Hurt the baby. I thought I was protecting you. By throwing me out without a coat? Without a phone? Without anything. I thought you'd go to a hotel. I thought you'd call someone. I didn't know you'd just wander into the street like that." Zara closed her eyes, trying to process the disconnect between Derek's fear and his actions. "Who were these people? What did you owe them for?" I had some gambling debts. Got out of hand. But Zara, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Let me come see you. Let me meet our daughter. Please." "No. Zara? No. Firmer now. You don't get to do that. You don't get to throw me away and then ask for forgiveness the moment it's convenient. You made your choice. I made a mistake. A horrible, terrible mistake. But I love you. I love our baby. Please just give me a chance to." Minho reached over and gently took the phone from her hand. Zara was shaking so badly she let him. "Dr. Mitchell," Minho said, his voice pleasant and absolutely terrifying. "This is Minho Park. Your wife and daughter are under my protection now. You will not contact them again unless they initiate contact. You will not attempt to enter this hospital. And you will consider very carefully your next moves because the people you made your deal with are my enemies, which makes your position very precarious. Do we understand each other?" Zara couldn't hear Derek's response, but Minho's expression didn't change. "Good. Oh, and Dr. Mitchell? If you truly love your family, you'll help me destroy the people who put them in danger. Think about it." He ended the call and handed the phone back to Zara. "That was perhaps too aggressive. My apologies." "No," Zara said slowly. "No, it was exactly right. I don't know how to feel. Part of me still loves him. Part of me wants to believe he was trying to protect us in some misguided way. And part of me wants to never see him again. All of those things can be true simultaneously." Minho's voice was gentler now. "Humans are complicated. Betrayal doesn't erase history, and history doesn't excuse betrayal. You don't have to decide everything right now." Before Zara could respond, there was a commotion at the NICU entrance. Raised voices, someone demanding entry. Minho tensed, his hand moving to his waist where Zara suspected a weapon rested, but then a woman's voice cut through the noise. "I don't care about your protocols. That's my granddaughter in there, and you will let me through or I will raise such holy hell." "Mama?" Zara's voice cracked. A moment later, Lydia Williams burst through the NICU doors like an avenging angel. She was a tall, regal woman in her 50s, her natural hair wrapped in a vibrant headscarf, her brown skin glowing with fury and fear. Behind her, looking deeply uncomfortable, was hospital security. "Baby girl." Lydia's eyes found Zara, and her whole demeanor shifted from warrior to mother. "Oh, my baby." Zara stood on shaky legs, and Lydia crossed the distance in seconds, pulling her daughter into a fierce embrace. "I got on a train the moment Derek showed up at my door babbling about mistakes and debt collectors." "What happened? Are you hurt?" "Where's my grandbaby?" "She's here, Mama. She's so small but she's fighting." Zara led her mother to the incubator and Lydia's breath caught. "Lord have mercy. She's beautiful. She's perfect." Lydia's hand went to the incubator, mirroring Zara's earlier gesture. "Hello, sweet Lily. Your grandma's here now. You keep fighting, you hear?" It was only then that Lydia seemed to notice Minho, still standing against the wall. Her eyes narrowed. "And who might you be?" "Minho Park. I found your daughter on New Year's night and brought her to safety." Lydia studied him with the kind of penetrating gaze that only mothers possess. "Found her where?" "Collapsed on a street corner, suffering from hypothermia." "And you just happened to be driving by?" "I was returning from a business dinner." I saw her fall and stopped to help. Hum. Lydia's skepticism was palpable. And you've been here for 2 days because? Mama, please. Zara touched her mother's arm. It's complicated, but Mr. Park has been nothing but helpful. Without him, Lily and I might not have made it. That boy you married did this to you, didn't he? Lydia's voice went hard. I told you he had secrets. Told you there was something off about all those late nights, the way he flinched when bills came. You were right. The admission hurt. He has gambling debts. The people he owed wanted him to throw me out as some kind of payment or arrangement. He did it. Lydia's jaw tightened, and for a moment Zara saw murder in her mother's eyes. Where is he now? Trying to get into the hospital, Minho supplied. My people have been redirecting him. Your people. Lydia turned back to him. What kind of business are you in, Mr. Park? Import-export. Property management. Various investments. Hum. A mother's translation. I know you're lying and I'm watching you. The tension was broken by the arrival of another unexpected visitor. An older white woman in a Burberry coat, her face etched with distress. Beatrice Mitchell looked like she'd aged a decade since New Year's Eve. Zara, she said, her voice trembling. I know I have no right to be here, but I needed to see you. To apologize. To meet my granddaughter. Lydia positioned herself between Beatrice and Zara like a shield. You got some nerve showing your face here after what your son did. I know, and I'm ashamed. I should have stopped him, should have done more. Beatrice pulled an envelope from her purse with shaking hands. This is a check. $50,000. It's from my personal account, not Derek's. For the baby, for medical bills, for whatever you need. Please. I can't undo what happened, but I can try to help. Zara stared at the envelope, emotions warring. Beatrice had been kind to her over the years, had welcomed her into the family with genuine warmth. But she'd also stood silent while Derek destroyed their lives. I don't want your money, Zara said finally. I want to know why you didn't stop him. Because I'm a coward. Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. Because I've spent my whole life smoothing things over, keeping peace, avoiding conflict. And when it mattered most, when you needed someone to speak up, I chose my son over what was right. She looked at Lily's incubator, her face crumpling. She's so tiny. So perfect. And she might have died because I was too weak to say no. Lydia's expression softened slightly, recognizing a mother's guilt when she saw it. Take the money, Beatrice pressed. Not as payment or absolution. As responsibility. My son did this and that makes it partially my failing as his mother. Let me at least try to make amends. Zara looked to Minho, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Medical bills for a premature infant can be substantial, even with insurance. Pride is admirable, but practicality keeps children safe. Fine. Zara took the envelope. But this doesn't mean Derek gets to waltz back into our lives. And it doesn't mean you're forgiven. It means I'm accepting help for my daughter because she deserves every advantage. That's all I ask. Beatrice moved closer to the incubator, her hand hovering over the glass. May I? Zara nodded, and Beatrice touched the incubator gently, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, sweet girl. Your grandma is so sorry. The 4 adults stood in awkward silence around Lily's incubator. 2 grandmothers, a mother, and a stranger who was somehow becoming central to this family drama. It was Lydia who finally spoke. Mr. Park, I appreciate what you've done for my daughter. But I'm here now. Zara and the baby can come stay with me in Baltimore once she's released. No. Zara's voice was firm. Mama, I love you, but Baltimore isn't safe. The people Derek owes aren't just going to forget about me. And I have my job here, my life. What life? Your husband threw you out. My career. My connections. Everything I've built. Zara squared her shoulders. I'm not running away. Mr. Park has offered me a safe place to stay while I figure things out, and I'm going to accept. You barely know this man. I barely knew Derek too, apparently. The words were bitter. At least Mr. Park has been honest about who he is and what he wants. Minho raised an eyebrow at that but said nothing. Beatrice, sensing she'd overstayed her welcome, moved toward the door. I'll go. But Zara, please call me if you need anything. Anything at all. And when the time comes, I'd like to be part of Lily's life. If you'll allow it. After she left, Lydia turned her formidable attention to Minho. Walk with me. Now. They stepped into the hallway, leaving Zara with Lily. Through the glass, Zara could see her mother speaking intently, Minho listening with his characteristic stillness. She couldn't hear the words, but she could imagine them. Lydia demanding to know his intentions, his background, what he wanted from her daughter. 10 minutes later they returned. Lydia looked no less suspicious, but some of the edge had left her posture. Your mother, Minho said to Zara, is formidable. I understand now where you get your strength. What did she say to you? That if I harm you or that baby in any way, she has 7 brothers who know how to make a body disappear, and a prayer group that will ensure my soul never finds peace. His lips twitched. I believe her. Damn right, Lydia said. Now, since it seems my daughter is staying in New York for now, I'm staying too. Mr. Park, this hotel you own, they have rooms available? I'll have a suite prepared immediately. And I'll be visiting this penthouse where my daughter is supposedly staying. Today. Of course. Lydia pulled Zara into another embrace. I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone. You hear me? We're going to get through this, baby girl. You, me, and little Lily. For the first time since New Year's Eve, Zara felt something like hope. She had her mother. She had Lily. And she had whatever Minho Park was to her. Protector? Guardian? Something more complicated? She didn't have answers yet. But as she looked at her daughter sleeping peacefully in the incubator, surrounded by family both blood and chosen, she thought maybe answers could wait. Survival first. Healing second. Everything else would follow. Derek Mitchell sat in a dingy office in Flushing, Queens, his surgeon's hands trembling as he faced the man across the desk. Sung-Ho Choi was younger than Derek expected, mid-30s, impeccably dressed in a designer suit, his face pleasant except for the absolute coldness of his eyes. Dr. Mitchell, Sung-Ho said, his English perfect but accented. I understand you've been trying to contact your wife. Ex-wife, apparently. Derek's voice was hollow. She won't talk to me. Won't let me see the baby. Yes, well, you did throw her out into a snowstorm. Sung-Ho's smile didn't reach his eyes. Though I'm told she found assistance from some Korean businessman. Park something. He won't let me near the hospital. The change in Sung-Ho's expression was subtle but unmistakable, a tightening around the eyes, a slight tension in his shoulders. Minho Park. That's the one. You know him? We're acquainted. Sung-Ho leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Dr. Mitchell, I'm going to be honest with you. Our arrangement was supposed to be simple. You evict your wife, she becomes desperate and vulnerable, and certain opportunities arise. But Minho Park's involvement complicates things significantly. I don't understand. What opportunities? Why did you want Zara on the streets? Sung-Ho studied him for a long moment, then seemed to come to a decision. Your wife saved the life of Park's sister several months ago. In our culture, such debts are taken very seriously. I knew Park had been searching for her, and I knew that if she were in danger, his honor would compel him to protect her. He smiled. I underestimated how thoroughly he would commit to that protection. The pieces clicked into place and Derek felt sick. You used me to get to Park. To set some kind of trap. I used your weakness, your gambling, your debts, to create an opportunity. You were quite easy to manipulate, Doctor. A few threats, some fabricated photos, and you destroyed your own marriage without hesitation. The photos were fake? Derek's voice rose. Zara really was innocent? Of course she was innocent. Do you think I'd leave something like that to chance? Sung-Ho's contempt was palpable. You threw away your wife and child over lies I had created in less than a day. It was almost disappointing how simple you made it. Derek lunged across the desk, but 2 men materialized from the shadows, slamming him back into his chair. One of them was Carlo, the associate, who'd approached him initially, who delivered the photos and the ultimatum. Careful, Doctor, Carlo said softly. You're in deep enough without assaulting Mr. Choi. So what now? Derek was shaking with rage and self-loathing. You got what you wanted. Park is protecting Zara. What else do you need from me? That depends. Sung-Ho pulled out a tablet, tapping it to life. Park has been very careful. His men have blocked all my attempts to locate your wife and child. But you, Dr. Mitchell, are still her husband. The hospital might share information with you that they wouldn't with outsiders. I need to know which hospital, which floor, which room. No. The word came out before Derek could think. No, I won't do that. You'll do exactly as I say, or I'll ensure your medical license is revoked and your debts transferred to parties far less patient than myself. I don't care. And Derek realized it was true. He'd already lost everything that mattered. What was a career compared to his daughter's safety? Kill me if you want. I'm not giving you access to my family. Sung-Ho's eyes narrowed. You're willing to die for the woman you threw away? I'm willing to die to stop you from using me to hurt her again. Derek met his gaze steadily. I've been weak, selfish, cowardly. But I draw the line here. You'll have to find another way. For a long moment, Sung-ho simply stared at him. Then he laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. Interesting. You grow a spine at the least convenient moment. He nodded to Carlo. Take him downstairs. Make him comfortable. We may yet have use for him. As Derek was hauled from the office, Sung-ho turned to the window overlooking Flushing streets. Minho Park had always been a thorn in his side, honorable, principled, respected by the old guard. But everyone had weaknesses, and Sung-ho had thought he'd found Parks. Instead, he'd apparently created it. A woman Park cared enough about to deploy his full resources, to block access to a hospital, to house in his own penthouse. A woman with a newborn child, both vulnerable and dependent on Park's protection. Sung-ho smiled. The plan had changed, but the opportunity remained. All he needed was the right pressure point. Meanwhile, in Miho's penthouse overlooking Central Park, Zara was discovering what protection by a Korean crime boss actually meant. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist modern decor, artwork that probably cost more than her former house. But it was also a fortress. Security cameras covered every angle. Armed men in suits stationed discreetly throughout the building. Panic buttons in every room. This is excessive, Zara said, standing in the living room while June explained the security protocols. Mr. Park doesn't believe in half measures, June replied. Especially not where your safety is concerned. Lydia, who'd accompanied them from the hospital, was doing her own inspection of the space. At least it's clean. And that kitchen. She'd poked her head into the professional-grade setup and whistled. When was the last time anyone cooked in here? Mr. Park employs a chef, June said. But she's been given the week off for your privacy. Mr. Park thought you might prefer to prepare your own meals. Thoughtful, Lydia admitted grudgingly. Minho himself was noticeably absent. June had explained he was dealing with business matters, which Zara suspected meant he was hunting for whoever had orchestrated Derek's betrayal. She'd been discharged from the hospital with instructions to rest, to return for daily check-ins on Lily, who would remain in the NICU for at least another week. The separation was agonizing, but Dr. Patel had assured her it was necessary for Lily's development. Ms. Williams, June said, pulling out a folder. Mr. Park asked me to give you these when you were settled. Zara opened the folder and felt her blood run cold. Divorce papers. Already drawn up, already filled out with Derek's information. All they needed was signatures. He can't just. He's not forcing anything, June said quickly. But he wanted you to have the option. To have control over what happens next. If you choose to reconcile with your husband, that's your decision. But if you choose to end the marriage, the legal framework is ready. Lydia took the papers, flipping through them. These are generous. Full custody to you, child support calculated at Derek's surgeon salary, division of assets weighted in your favor. She looked up. This is good work. Expensive work. Mr. Park wants to ensure you're protected legally as well as physically. Zara sank onto the leather couch, overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to sign these right now to be done with Derek forever. But part of me. She touched the wedding ring still on her finger. Part of me remembers who he was before all this. The man I fell in love with. That man may still exist, June said gently. Or he may have been an illusion. Only time and truth will tell. A phone rang, not Zara's but a secure line June carried. He answered, his expression shifting from neutral to alert. Understood. We're on our way. What's wrong? Derek is missing. He was seen entering a building in Flushing this morning, one of Sung-ho Choi's known properties. He hasn't emerged. Zara's breath caught. Is he? We don't know. But Mr. Park has requested your presence at a location in Midtown. He says it's time you understood the full scope of what's happening. 30 minutes later, Zara found herself in a different kind of room. A secure office in a building Minho apparently owned, with computer screens showing surveillance footage, maps of New York with locations marked, and photographs of men she didn't recognize. Minho stood at the center of it all, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, looking every inch the crime boss he was. Thank you for coming, he said when Zara entered with June and Lydia. I know you're recovering, but you deserve to understand what you've become entangled in. He gestured to the screens. Sung-ho Choi runs one of the largest Korean criminal organizations in the tri-state area. Loan sharking, illegal gambling, protection rackets. He's been trying to expand into territories I control for the past year. And I'm what? A chess piece in your gang war? Zara's voice was sharp. You were supposed to be. Sung-ho discovered I'd been searching for you after the gala incident. He correctly surmised I felt honor-bound to help you. So he created a scenario that would force my hand, make you vulnerable, make me commit resources to protecting you, possibly expose weaknesses in my organization. But it backfired, Lydia said shrewdly. Spectacularly. Miho's smile was cold. Because instead of treating this as an obligation, I've made it personal. Sung-ho wanted to use you against me. Instead, he's given me motivation to end him completely. So I'm still a chess piece, Zara said. Just one you care about winning. Miho turned to face her directly. No. You're a person who saved my sister's life, who's been betrayed and endangered, who deserves justice and safety. Sung-ho made this about power and territory. I'm making it about ensuring he never hurts anyone again. Before Zara could respond, one of the screens flashed with an alert. A man Zara recognized as one of Miho's lieutenants appeared on a video call. We've located Derek Mitchell. He's being held in Sung-ho's building, basement level. Cameras show he's unharmed but detained. Is this a trap? Miho asked. Almost certainly. Sung-ho knows we're watching. He wants you to come. Then I'll oblige him. Miho's voice was steel. Assemble a team. Full tactical gear. If Sung-ho wants to escalate, we'll show him what escalation looks like. No. Zara stepped forward. You can't just raid a building. People could get hurt. This is insane. Miho's expression softened slightly. Zara, your husband is being held by a man who orchestrated your suffering for strategic gain. Whether Derek deserves rescue is debatable, but the message Sung-ho is sending is clear. He'll keep targeting people connected to you until I back down. I don't back down. So more violence? More escalation? When does it end? When Sung-ho is no longer a threat. He moved closer, his voice lowering. I understand this world is foreign to you. The rules, the codes, the way we resolve conflicts. But understand this. Men like Sung-ho don't respond to negotiation or mercy. They respond to strength and consequences. If I let this stand, you and Lily will never be truly safe. Lydia had been silent, but now she spoke up. He's right, baby. I don't like it, but he's right. This man already showed he's willing to destroy your life as a chess move. What happens next time? When Lily's older? When you're not under armed guard? Zara felt tears prick her eyes. This is all because I performed the Heimlich maneuver at a charity gala. Because I helped someone who was choking. That's it. That's all I did. No. Miho's voice was firm. This is happening because Sung-ho Choi is a monster who exploits any weakness he finds. You're a good person who did a kind thing. Those should not result in punishment. And I'm going to make sure they don't. He turned back to the screens, issuing rapid orders in Korean. Zara caught glimpses of the planning, teams assembling, routes being mapped, contingencies being considered. It was military in its precision, terrifying in its implications. If you do this, Zara said quietly, if you go to war over me and Derek, I need to know it's not just about honor or territory or revenge. I need to know it's about doing what's right. Miho paused, considering his words carefully. In my world, those things are often the same. But yes, Zara. This is about doing what's right. It's about ensuring a man who hurts innocent people faces consequences. And it's about making sure you and your daughter can live without fear. He met her eyes, and there was something in his gaze that made her breath catch. Not attraction exactly, though that was there too. It was recognition. Understanding. The look of someone who saw her, truly saw her, and deemed her worth fighting for. I won't let him win, Miho said. I won't let him make you regret being kind. And as Zara watched him return to his planning, coordinating an operation that would likely end in violence and possibly death, she realized she was crossing a line. By staying here, by accepting his protection, by allowing him to fight this battle on her behalf, she was becoming part of his world. The question was whether she could live with that. Or whether, perhaps, she already had. The hospital attack came at 3:47 a.m., during the quiet hours when the NICU was staffed by skeleton crews and visiting hours were long over. Zara had been asleep in Miho's penthouse, Lydia in the guest room, both unaware that in Flushing, Sung-ho Choi had made a critical decision. If Minho Park wouldn't come to him, he'd force Park's hand by targeting what he protected most. The assault team consisted of 6 men heavily armed, wearing stolen hospital maintenance uniforms. They'd bypassed security through a service entrance, using credentials hacked from the hospital's system. Their target, the NICU on the 4th floor. Their objective, kidnap the Mitchell baby. It should have been simple. But Minho Park didn't leave things to chance. The first attacker made it 3 steps into the NICU hallway before he encountered a problem. The janitor mopping the floor was actually one of Minho's men, and the mop handle concealed a telescoping baton. The attacker went down hard, his weapon clattering across the linoleum. The alarm raised, chaos erupted. NICU in lockdown. The charge nurse's voice boomed over the intercom. Security to floor 4. This is not a drill. But Sung-ho's men were professionals. They moved with military efficiency, spreading out, securing the hallway. One headed for the nursery where Lily lay sleeping, while others engaged Minho's guards in a firefight that turned the sterile hospital corridor into a war zone. Dr. Patel, working late on patient files, grabbed the nearest infant, Lily, and ran for the safe room, a reinforced space designed for exactly this kind of emergency. Behind her, nurses scrambled to protect the other NICU babies, pulling incubators into protective positions. The attacker pursuing Dr. Patel raised his weapon, finger tightening on the trigger. And then Minho Park stepped out of the stairwell, his own gun already drawn. I wouldn't, Minho said, his voice carrying despite the chaos. He'd been in his office downstairs reviewing security footage when the breach was detected. Now he stood between the attacker and the nursery, absolutely calm. Drop the weapon. Last chance. The attacker spun, trying to bring his gun to bear, but Minho was faster. The shot was precise, professional, shoulder, not lethal but completely disabling. The man crumpled with a scream. June? Minho called into his earpiece. Get Mrs. Mitchell and her mother to the safe house. No. Tell them there's been an incident but it's contained. Move. The firefight lasted another 90 seconds. When it was over, 4 of Sung-ho's men were down, wounded, not dead, because Minho had given explicit orders about body counts in a hospital. The other 2 had fled when they realized they were outgunned. Hospital security and NYPD arrived to find Minho Park sitting calmly in the hallway, his weapon disassembled and laid out in clear view, his hands up in a non-threatening posture. The wounded attackers were being treated by hospital staff under the watchful eyes of Minho's men. Detective Ramirez, Minho said as a plainclothes officer approached. Always a pleasure. Park. Detective Maria Ramirez was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with a reputation for being incorruptible, which meant Minho had never tried to bribe her, only to maintain professional courtesy. Want to tell me what the hell just happened in my city's hospital? Armed men attempted to kidnap a newborn from the NICU. My security personnel intervened. I believe you'll find the attackers are connected to Sung-ho Choi's organization. I suspect their weapons will match ones used in previous crimes he's connected to. Ramirez's expression soured. Sung-ho Choi was a name that came up often in her investigations, but evidence never quite stuck. And why would Choi target a newborn? Because the child's mother saved my sister's life, and Choi wants to use her to get to me. Minho's voice was matter-of-fact. I've been protecting the family. Apparently, Choi decided to escalate. Wow. And I suppose you have footage of this entire encounter? Perfectly documenting your heroic intervention? My security cameras are comprehensive, yes. I'm happy to provide the footage. Which Ramirez knew would show exactly what Minho wanted it to show. But if the story held up, and knowing Park it would, there wasn't much she could do. He defended innocent people from armed attackers in a hospital. The optics were entirely in his favor. I'm going to need statements. From you, your men, the medical staff. Of course. I'll cooperate fully. Minho stood slowly, keeping his movements visible. Detective, I know we're not allies. But those men came here to hurt or kidnap a 3-day-old premature infant. Whatever you think of me, I hope you'll agree that's where the line should be drawn. Ramirez studied him for a long moment. I'll give you this, Park, you're consistent. You've got a code, twisted as it might be. She gestured to her officers. Take his statement. Get the footage. And Park? Keep your gang war out of my hospitals. This wasn't my gang war, Minho said quietly. This was Sung-ho Choi targeting an innocent woman and her baby. I'm just the one who stopped it. 20 miles away in a safe house in Westchester, Zara paced frantically while June tried to calm her. Mr. Park said the situation is contained. Lily is safe. The hospital is secure. Someone tried to kidnap my baby. Zara's voice was shrill. My 3-day-old baby. This is insane. Lydia sat on the couch, her face gray. This is what you've gotten involved in, baby? This man and his world, this is what it means. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to help someone who was choking. June's phone rang and he stepped away to answer. When he returned, his expression was carefully neutral. Mr. Park is en route. He wants to speak with you both. I don't want to speak with him, Zara snapped. I want to see my daughter. I want to hold her and know she's safe. The hospital is still processing the scene. It'll be several hours before visitors are allowed back in the NICU. But Mr. Park assures me Lily is completely unharmed. Dr. Patel protected her, and the attackers never even got close. The door opened, and Minho entered, still in his clothes from the hospital, a small spot of blood on his sleeve. He looked exhausted but alert, his eyes immediately finding Zara. I'm sorry, he said simply. I should have anticipated this. Should have had more men, better protocols. You should have left me alone. Zara's composure shattered. None of this would have happened if you'd just let me freeze on that street. Derek would have found me eventually, we'd have figured it out, and my baby wouldn't have armed men trying to kidnap her. The words hung in the air, cruel and unfair and born of terror. Minho absorbed them without flinching. You're right. My involvement escalated the situation. But Zara, Sung-ho already knew who you were, already knew about the gala. He was going to use you regardless of whether I found you that night. The only difference is whether you faced it alone or with protection. Some protection. They got into the hospital. And we stopped them. Lily is safe. You're safe. The men who tried this are in custody, and I guarantee you Sung-ho is now facing pressure he wasn't expecting. I don't care about your gang politics. Tears streamed down Zara's face. I care about my daughter. I care about her growing up without people trying to hurt her because of me. Minho moved closer, his voice gentling. Then let me end this. Let me make sure Sung-ho can never threaten you again. By what? Killing him? Starting a war. By doing what should have been done years ago, removing a cancer from our community. Minho's eyes were hard. Sung-ho Choi has hurt countless people. He'll continue hurting people unless he's stopped. I've been trying to do it through legitimate channels. Evidence, pressure, strategic containment. But tonight he crossed a line. He brought violence into a hospital, threatened children. That can't stand. Lydia spoke up, her voice heavy. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Park? Sung-ho is holding Derek Mitchell in one of his properties. I'm going to retrieve him, with his cooperation if possible, and use what Derek knows to dismantle Sung-ho's organization. Bank accounts, property holdings, criminal activities. I'm going to give law enforcement enough evidence to ensure Sung-ho spends the rest of his life in prison, or... He paused. Or I'm going to ensure he's no longer a problem through other means. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about justice. Sometimes they're the same thing. Zara sank into a chair, overwhelmed. I can't be part of this. I can't condone this. Then don't. Minho's voice was surprisingly gentle. I'm not asking for your permission or your approval. I'm telling you what I'm going to do regardless, because it's what needs to happen. You can walk away from me from all of this. I'll still ensure you and Lily are protected until Sung-ho is dealt with. But you don't have to be complicit. That's not how it works. If you do this, I'm involved whether I want to be or not. So tell me to stop. Minho met her eyes. Tell me you want to handle this another way. Tell me you have a better solution. I'll listen. The challenge hung between them. Zara wanted to say yes, wanted to insist there was a better path. But what? Call the police? Sung-ho had clearly evaded law enforcement for years. Let Derek face the consequences alone? He'd brought this on himself. Flee the city? Run forever with a newborn? There were no good options. I hate this, Zara said finally. I hate all of it. I hate that my kindness at a gala led to this. I hate that my daughter's first days of life have been about violence and fear. I hate that you might be right about what needs to happen. I know. Minho crouched in front of her chair, putting himself at her eye level. And when this is over, you can hate me too if you need to. But right now, I need you to trust that I'm going to end this threat. Can you do that? Zara looked into his dark eyes, saw the determination there, the cold calculation of a man who'd made difficult decisions before. She thought about Lily, tiny and vulnerable in her incubator. About the life she wanted for her daughter, safe, stable, free from fear. Do what you have to do, she whispered. But Minho? Don't make me complicit. Don't tell me the details. Just end it. He nodded once, then stood. June will stay here with you. The safe house has everything you need. I'll call when it's over. As he moved toward the door, Lydia called out. Mr. Park? Bring that fool Derek back alive if you can. My daughter may be done with him, but he's still Lily's father. She deserves the chance to know him, even if he doesn't deserve her. Minho paused, then nodded. I'll do my best. And then he was gone, leaving Zara and her mother in the quiet safety of the safe house, wondering what kind of man they'd entrusted their lives to, and whether that trust would save them or destroy them. Outside, dawn was breaking over New York City. And in Flushing, Sung-Ho Choi was about to discover that sometimes, predators become prey. Derek Mitchell had lost track of time in the basement. No windows, no clocks, just the constant hum of machinery and the occasional visit from Carlo bringing water or food. He'd been moved to a cell, clean but Spartan with a cot and a bucket, and told to wait. He didn't know what he was waiting for. The answer came at dawn, when the door opened and Sung-Ho Choi himself entered, flanked by guards. "Dr. Mitchell. I hope you've been comfortable. What do you want?" Derek's voice was hoarse. "I already told you I won't help you hurt my family. Yes, your newfound spine. It's admirable if inconvenient." Sung-Ho settled into a chair someone had brought. "But circumstances have changed. My men attempted to secure your daughter a few hours ago. They failed. Minho Park was there personally." Derek's blood ran cold. "Is Lily okay? Is she hurt?" "Unharmed as far as I know. But Park killed one of my men in the hospital, shot him in the shoulder. He bled out before paramedics could save him." The lie came smoothly. "So now this is about revenge as well as strategy." "You're lying. Park doesn't kill in hospitals. You sent men after my baby." Sung-Ho's expression hardened. "Believe what you want. The fact remains that Park has escalated this situation beyond recovery. Which means you, Dr. Mitchell, have become a liability." He pulled out a gun, checking the chamber with casual efficiency. Derek's breath caught. "However," Sung-Ho continued, "I'm not without mercy. I'm going to give you a choice. You can die here now quietly. Or you can help me draw Park into a trap. Beg for your life, promise to testify against him whatever story works. And when he comes to rescue you, my men will be waiting. And then what? You kill us both." "I kill him. You." Sung-Ho shrugged. "You'll owe me for the rest of your miserable life. But you'll be alive. You might even get to see your daughter grow up from a distance." Derek stared at the gun, thinking about Zara's face when he'd thrown her out, about the tiny life in the NICU that he'd never even held, about all the choices that had led him to this basement, facing a monster he'd been too weak to refuse. "No," he said. "No. I'm done being your puppet. You want Park? Come get him yourself. Leave me out of it." Sung-Ho's finger tightened on the trigger. The explosion was deafening. The basement wall blew inward in a shower of concrete and rebar, alarms shrieking to life. Through the smoke and dust, figures poured in, men in tactical gear moving with military precision. Sung-Ho's guards scrambled for weapons, but they were already outflanked. "Down!" Someone shouted at Derek and he threw himself to the floor as gunfire erupted. The firefight was brutal and brief. Sung-Ho's men were good, but Minho Park's were better. Within 2 minutes, the basement was secured, bodies on the ground, wounded, not dead because Park had given explicit orders about excessive killing, and Sung-Ho himself was being held at gunpoint by 3 different men. Minho Park stepped through the hole in the wall like an avenging angel, his expensive suit somehow pristine despite the chaos. His eyes found Derek first. "Dr. Mitchell. Are you harmed?" No. Derek struggled to his feet. "You came for me. Your mother-in-law requested it. Also, you're Lily's father regardless of your failures. She deserves the chance to know you even if you don't deserve her." The words cut deeper than any blade. Derek nodded mutely. Minho turned his attention to Sung-Ho, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You made a mistake tonight." "Did I?" Sung-Ho was still smiling despite the blood trickling from his temple. "This isn't over, Park. You've exposed yourself, committed multiple crimes on camera. You won't walk away from this clean. Perhaps not. But you'll walk away worse." Minho gestured to one of his men who produced a tablet. "The raid on your building has already begun. My people are seizing your financial records, your computers, your carefully hidden evidence. Within the hour, law enforcement will receive anonymous tips about 12 different criminal operations, complete with documentation. Your empire is over." Sung-Ho's smile faltered. "As for me," Minho continued, "I'll face whatever consequences come. But here's the difference between us. I have honor. I have people who respect me because I protect them, not because they fear me. You have nothing but threats and violence. And today those tactics failed." He moved closer, his voice dropping. "You targeted a newborn baby. In my world, in any world, that crosses every line that matters. You wanted to see what I'd do? This is what I do. I dismantle you piece by piece until there's nothing left but regret. Boss, June called from across the basement. Police are incoming. 3 minutes. Minho nodded. To Derek, come with us. Now. I can't just. You can and you will. Unless you'd like to explain to the police what you're doing in Sung-Ho Choi's basement. Minho's tone made it clear this wasn't a request. Derek followed, stumbling through the hole in the wall and into a waiting van. As they pulled away, he could see flashing lights approaching in the distance. Where are you taking me? To the hospital. To meet your daughter. And to face your wife if she'll allow it. Minho studied him coldly. You have one chance to explain yourself, Derek. One chance to make amends if such a thing is even possible. Don't waste it. The van ride was silent except for radio chatter. Minho's people coordinating the withdrawal, ensuring no one was left behind. It was military in its efficiency, professional in its execution. Why? Derek finally asked. Why did you come for me? You don't owe me anything. I'm the one who hurt Zara. Because your daughter deserves better than to grow up wondering why her father abandoned her. Because Zara deserves closure whatever form that takes. And because... Minho paused. Because I've made mistakes too. I've hurt people, failed to protect those I should have. The difference is I try to do better. You should too. At the hospital, they entered through a private entrance, bypassing the chaos of the main lobby. Minho led Derek to a small consultation room where Zara and Lydia waited, both looking exhausted and scared. Zara's eyes went wide when she saw Derek. You're alive. Barely. Derek's voice cracked. Zara, I'm so sorry. For everything. I was weak and scared and I let that man manipulate me into destroying the best thing in my life. You threw me out in the snow while I was pregnant. I know. You believed lies instead of trusting me. I know. You gambled away our security and made deals with criminals. I know. Derek was crying now openly. I know all of it and I have no defense except cowardice and stupidity. But Zara, I swear to you, I never stopped loving you. And when Sung-Ho wanted me to betray you again to help him hurt Lily, I refused. I was ready to die rather than let him use me against you. Zara stood there, trembling, her hands clenched into fists. Lydia put a hand on her shoulder, steadying. One act of courage doesn't erase weeks of betrayal, Zara said finally. It doesn't make us okay. I know. But it's a start. She met his eyes. I'm filing for divorce, Derek. Our marriage is over. But Lily deserves to know her father, if he's willing to do the work to become a man worthy of that role. I am. I'll do whatever it takes. Then start by getting help. Real help. Therapy for the gambling, for whatever made you so weak that you'd believe I could betray you. And stay away from me until you've proven you've changed. Derek nodded, not trusting his voice. Minho stepped forward. Dr. Mitchell, Detective Ramirez is upstairs waiting to take your statement about Sung-Ho's organization. You're going to tell her everything, the debts, the coercion, the setup. You're going to help ensure he faces justice. What about me? Won't I face charges? Possibly. Probably. But cooperation will help, and you were a victim of coercion as well as a perpetrator. A good lawyer, which I'll provide, should be able to navigate it. Why would you help me? After what I did to Zara. Minho glanced at Zara, then back to Derek. Because she asked me to. Because Lily deserves a father. And because even cowards can find redemption, if they're willing to work for it. He gestured to one of his men. Take Dr. Mitchell to Detective Ramirez. Make sure he has counsel present. As Derek was led away, Zara finally allowed herself to collapse into a chair. Is it really over? Sung-Ho's organization is being dismantled as we speak. His assets frozen, his operations exposed. He'll spend decades in prison if he's lucky. Minho's voice was flat, exhausted. The threat to you and Lily is ended. At what cost? For everyone. He moved toward the door. I'll have June arrange transport back to the penthouse. You should rest, see Lily when visiting hours start. I have matters to attend to. Minho. Zara's voice stopped him. Thank you. For everything. For saving me, protecting Lily, even for bringing Derek back alive. I know I've been angry and scared and I've said things. You had every right to be angry. Every right to question this. He turned back and for the first time she saw how deeply tired he was. I've made decisions this week that will have consequences. For me, for my organization, possibly for you by association. I'm sorry for that. Don't apologize for keeping us safe. Safe and free are different things. I'm not sure I've given you both. Before Zara could respond, he was gone, leaving her and her mother in the quiet room with nothing but the weight of everything that had happened. That, Lydia said softly, is a complicated man. Everything about this is complicated, Mama? Yes. But you're alive, baby girl. You and Lily are alive and safe. Sometimes that's enough. Zara thought about Derek's tears, about Minho's exhaustion, about Lily sleeping peacefully in the NICU unaware of the war that had been fought over her existence. Maybe Lydia was right. Maybe alive and safe was enough. For now. 3 weeks later, the world had shifted into something resembling normalcy, though the new normal bore little resemblance to the old. Lily was thriving. She'd gained a pound, was breathing without assistance, and the doctors had cautiously suggested she might be discharged within the week. Zara spent every possible moment at the NICU, watching her daughter strengthen, marveling at the fierce will to live in such a tiny body. Derek had not been charged. Detective Ramirez had accepted his testimony against Sung-ho in exchange for immunity, recognizing him as a victim of coercion. But his medical license was under review, and his reputation in shambles. He checked himself into an inpatient treatment program for gambling addiction, and was attending court-ordered therapy. He'd seen Lily exactly once, under supervised visitation, and had wept while holding her. "She's perfect," he'd whispered to Zara. "She deserves so much better than me." "Then become better," Zara had replied. "Not for me. For her." Sung-ho Choi was awaiting trial on 14 counts of racketeering, extortion, attempted kidnapping, and conspiracy. The evidence Minho had provided, combined with Derek's testimony, had been overwhelming. His organization had collapsed, associates turning on each other in plea deals. The Korean community had collectively breathed a sigh of relief. And Minho Park had retreated. He'd visited the hospital twice in 3 weeks, both times briefly, checking on Lily's progress and Zara's well-being before disappearing into whatever business occupied him. He'd been polite, professional, distant. The warm protector who'd held Zara during labor, who'd vowed to keep her safe, had been replaced by the crime boss, always calculating, always controlled. Zara told herself she wasn't hurt by the distance. Told herself it was better this way. She was lying. "You miss him," Lydia observed one afternoon as they sat in the NICU family room. "The intense man in the expensive suits who saved your life." "I barely know him, Mama." "You know him well enough to trust him with your daughter's life." "With yours." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know how to feel about him. He's a criminal. He runs an organization that does illegal things. He orchestrated a violent raid on another criminal's building. He also saved you from freezing to death, protected your baby from kidnappers, and brought your foolish husband back alive when he could have left him to die." Lydia's voice was pragmatic. "People are complicated, baby. Especially people like Mr. Park. What if I'm attracted to him?" "Are you?" "I think so. Maybe. I don't know." Zara put her head in her hands. "I just had a baby. My marriage just ended. This is the worst possible time to be feeling anything for anyone, especially someone like him. The heart doesn't consult calendars." Lydia squeezed her daughter's hand. "But you're right that timing matters. You need to heal. To figure out who you are as a single mother, as a woman whose life was turned upside down. Mr. Park seems to understand that. Maybe that's why he's giving you space." That evening, as if summoned by their conversation, Minho appeared at the NICU. Zara was alone, Lydia having returned to Baltimore to handle some business, planning to return before Lily's discharge. "May I?" Minho gestured to the chair beside Lily's incubator. "Of course." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily sleep. She was bigger now, stronger, her features becoming more defined. She had Derek's nose, Zara's eyes, and a temperament all her own. "She's beautiful," Minho said finally. "You should be proud." "I am. Terrified but proud." Zara glanced at him. "You've been scarce lately. I thought you could use space. To process, to heal, to figure out your next steps without me hovering." That was thoughtful. "But Minho, I wanted to thank you. For everything. And also to ask, what happens now? What do you want to happen?" The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. Zara took a breath. "I want to rebuild my life. Go back to work, find an apartment. A safe one, not the one I shared with Derek, raise Lily. Be the mother she deserves. All good goals. But I also want to understand what happened these past weeks. Want to know if what I felt between us was real or just trauma bonding." Minho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "What happened between us was real. But Zara, you were vulnerable, scared, dependent on me for survival. That's not a foundation for anything healthy. So you're saying we should never explore this?" "I'm saying we should wait. Let you build your life. Let time pass. Let you be sure that any feelings you have aren't just gratitude or dependence or the intensity of shared crisis. And what about your feelings? He turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his dark eyes made her breath catch. My feelings are clear. But they're also irrelevant if pursuing them would harm you. I'm a complicated man with a complicated life, Zara. I've done things you'd probably rather not know about. I operate in a world that just tried to kidnap your daughter. You deserve better than that shadow hanging over you. Shouldn't I get to decide what I deserve? Yes. Which is why I'm giving you time and space to decide clearly. He stood, and for a moment, his hand hovered near hers before pulling back. I've arranged a trust fund for Lily. $2 million, managed by a reputable firm, accessible for her education and needs. It's not a gift, it's compensation for the danger my world brought to her doorstep. Minho, that's too much. It's what's right. I've also found you an apartment. Safe building, good neighborhood, yours if you want it. First year's rent paid, security handled. And I've spoken with premier occasions. Your job is waiting whenever you're ready to return. You can't just arrange my life. I'm not arranging it. I'm removing obstacles so you can build it yourself. His voice softened. You're a strong, brilliant woman who was temporarily derailed by betrayal and circumstance. I'm just ensuring you have the resources to get back on track. And then what? You disappear? We never see each other again? Then you live your life. Raise Lily. Find happiness whatever that looks like. And if, in 6 months or a year or 5 years, you decide you want to explore whether there could be something between us, you know where to find me. Zara felt tears prick her eyes. That's very noble and very stupid. Probably. What if in 6 months you've moved on? Found someone else? I won't. The certainty in his voice was absolute. In my world, debts are honored. Commitments are kept. I told you I'd protect you, and that protection doesn't end just because the immediate threat is over. I'll be here. Watching from a distance, ensuring you're safe, waiting to see who you become when you have the chance to choose your path freely. You're making this very hard to argue with. Good. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Because you should focus your energy on Lily, not on me. She needs you whole and healthy and focused, not torn between gratitude and attraction and figuring out what her mother's relationship is with a Korean crime boss. Despite everything, Zara laughed. When you put it that way? Exactly. He moved toward the door, then paused. Zara? For what it's worth, these past weeks, watching you fight for your daughter, watching you find strength in impossible circumstances, watching you be kind even when you had every right to be bitter, it's been an honor to know you. Whatever happens next, that won't change. And then he was gone, leaving Zara with her daughter and a future full of possibility. The apartment he'd arranged was perfect. A 2-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, walking distance from a park, with excellent security and neighbors who included families with young children. Zara moved in when Lily was discharged with Lydia's help and blessing. This is a good fresh start, Lydia said, arranging baby supplies in the nursery. New place, new life, no ghosts from the old one. Except Derek will still be part of things. He'll have visitation rights once he completes his program. And that's as it should be. Lily deserves a father, even if he's a work in progress. Lydia studied her daughter. But this apartment, this life, this is yours. Build it the way you want. Not for Derek, not for Mr. Park, not for anyone but you and this baby. Over the following weeks, Zara did exactly that. She returned to work part-time, bringing Lily to a carefully vetted daycare. She reconnected with friends who'd been sidelined during her marriage troubles. She went to therapy, processing the trauma and betrayal and fear of the past months. And slowly, painfully, she began to heal. Derek completed his inpatient program and started regular visitation with Lily, supervised at first, then gradually unsupervised as he proved himself reliable. They were polite, civil co-parents navigating a new dynamic. The divorce was finalized quietly, the terms as generous as Minho's lawyers had promised. I'm proud of you, Derek said one evening as he handed Lily back after a visit. You built something good here. Something strong. We both have, Zara replied. You're doing the work. That matters. I'll never stop being sorry. I know. But Derek? I've forgiven you. Not because you've earned it, but because carrying that anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. So I'm letting it go. That's generous. It's necessary. For me, not for you. She took Lily, settling the baby against her shoulder. We're going to be okay. All of us. Separately, but okay. And she meant it. Of Minho Park she saw nothing. No visits, no calls, no mysterious appearances. But June checked in occasionally, always politely inquiring after her well-being, always mentioning that Mr. Park sends his regards. The protection remained. She'd noticed the discreet security, the watchful eyes that followed her on her commute. He was keeping his word. Watching from a distance. Letting her build her life. She told herself she didn't miss him. She was still lying. 6 months after New Year's Day, Zara stood in Central Park watching Lily, now 8 months old, chubby and thriving, attempt to crawl on a blanket spread under a tree. The baby was determined, her little face scrunched with concentration as she rocked back and forth. "Come on, baby girl," Zara encouraged. "You can do it." Lily lunged forward, made it 2 whole movements before face planting into the blanket. She looked up, surprised, then started laughing, that belly laugh that made everything worthwhile. "That's my girl. Try again. She has your determination." Zara's breath caught. She turned to find Minho Park standing a few feet away, looking exactly as she remembered, expensive suit, dark eyes, that controlled intensity that made her heart skip. "Minho." His name came out softer than she intended. "I didn't know you'd be here." "I wasn't planning to be. I was walking back from a meeting, saw you from across the park." He gestured to the blanket. "May I?" "Of course." He settled onto the grass with a grace that shouldn't have been possible in a suit that probably cost more than her first car. Lily, who'd never seen him before, studied him with serious eyes. "Hello, Lily," Minho said gently. "You've gotten big." Lily, apparently deciding he was acceptable, returned to her crawling practice. "She's doing well?" Minho asked. "Perfectly. No developmental delays, no lingering issues from the premature birth. Dr. Patel says she's in the 95th percentile for adjusted age." "Good. And you?" "I'm..." Zara considered the question seriously. "I'm healing. It's slow and some days are harder than others, but I'm building something good. For me and for her." "I'm glad." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily explore her world. Finally Zara spoke. "You've kept your distance." "I said I would." "It's been 6 months." "Yes." "Do you still..." She trailed off, not sure how to finish. "Feel what I felt in January?" "Yes." Minho's voice was quiet but certain. "Nothing about that has changed." "I've thought about you," Zara admitted. "More than I probably should. I've wondered if what I felt was real or just the intensity of the situation. And I think it was both. I was grateful, dependent, scared. But there was also something genuine. Something about how you saw me, not as a victim to be saved or a responsibility to be managed, but as a person worth fighting for. Nobody's looked at me like that in a long time. Maybe ever." Minho turned to face her. "Zara, I need you to understand something. If we explore this, if there becomes an us, it will be complicated. My world isn't going to disappear just because I wish it would. I've tried to build something honorable within a dishonorable system, but it's still shadows and danger and choices most people never have to make." "I know. I've had 6 months to think about whether I can live with that." She met his eyes. "And I think the question isn't whether your world is dangerous, but whether you're the kind of man who would let that danger touch me or Lily unnecessarily." "Never. I'd burn my entire empire down before I'd let either of you be hurt because of me." "That's what I thought. And that's why I think maybe we could try. Slowly. Carefully. No rushing, no pressure. Just seeing if what we felt in those intense weeks can survive in the ordinary world." "I'd like that." Something in Minho's expression softened. "I'd like that very much." Lily chose that moment to successfully execute 3 whole crawling movements, then looked up at both adults as if to say, "Did you see that?" "Applaud me." They both laughed and the tension broke. "She's going to be trouble," Minho observed. "She's already trouble. Smart, determined, stubborn. Like her mother." Zara smiled. "Exactly like her mother." They spent the rest of the afternoon in the park talking about inconsequential things. Favorite foods, bad movies, travel dreams. Getting to know each other without crisis forcing intimacy. It was normal and ordinary and somehow perfect. As the sun began to set and Zara started packing up Lily's things, Minho helped fold the blanket. "Would you like to have dinner?" he asked. "Not tonight. I know you need to get her home. But sometime this week? A proper date, with a restaurant and conversation and no life or death situations." "I'd like that. But Minho? One thing." "Yes. If this is going to work, if we're going to try, I need honesty. Not every detail of your business but the truth about who you are and what you do. No secrets. No surprises. Can you do that?" "Yes." It might not always be comfortable. I don't need comfortable. I need real. Then real is what you'll get. He helped her settle Lily into the stroller. Same address? For picking you up? Same address. Thursday at 7? Thursday at 7. He touched her hand briefly, just a brush of fingers, but it sent electricity through her, and then stepped back. I'll see you then. Zara watched him walk away, this complicated, dangerous, honorable man who'd saved her life and was now asking permission to be part of it. She looked down at Lily, who'd fallen asleep in the stroller, her tiny face peaceful. What do you think, baby girl? Should Mama take a chance on the man who found us in the snow? Lily of course didn't answer. But as Zara pushed the stroller toward home, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but the cautious hope of new beginnings. Of second chances. Of building something good from the ashes of betrayal and trauma. Across town, Derek Mitchell sat in his therapist's office, talking through his latest session with Lily. She smiled at me today, he said, wonder in his voice. Really smiled, like she knew me. Recognized me. How did that feel? Like I didn't deserve it. Like I still don't. Derek's voice cracked. But also like maybe if I keep doing the work, keep showing up, I might earn that smile someday. That's growth, Derek. Recognizing that redemption is earned, not given. I saw Zara too. She looks happy. Lighter than I've ever seen her. And I realized something. I think I loved the idea of her more than I loved her. The perfect wife, the perfect life. But I never really saw her. Not the way Park does. How does Park see her? Like she's extraordinary. Like her strength and kindness are miracles worth protecting. Derek wiped his eyes. He's right. She is. And I almost destroyed her because I was too weak and selfish to see it. What are you going to do with that knowledge? Be better. Not for her, that ship has sailed. But for Lily. She deserves a father who's worthy of her. Who sees her, really sees her, the way Park sees Zara. Then keep doing the work. I will. For however long it takes. Thursday arrived with spring sunshine and the promise of new growth. Zara spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing an outfit. Something that said mature professional single mother but also maybe interested in the crime boss who saved my life. Before settling on a simple black dress and her favorite jewelry. Lydia, who'd returned to help with babysitting, watched her preparations with knowing eyes. You're nervous. Terrified. What if it's awkward? What if we have nothing to talk about outside of crisis situations? Then you'll have a nice dinner, say goodnight and move on with your life. Baby, you've survived homelessness, premature labor and a gang war. You can handle a first date. This isn't a first date. This is... I don't even know what this is. It's a beginning. That's all anything ever is. Minho arrived precisely at 7, bearing flowers, a mix of vibrant blooms that somehow perfectly captured Zara's personality. He dressed down slightly, still impeccable but more understated. You look beautiful, he said simply. You look nervous. I am. Terrified, actually. The admission broke the tension and Zara laughed. Me too. Maybe we can be terrified together? I'd like that. Dinner was at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, the kind of place where the owner knew Minho by name and gave them the best table without being asked. The conversation flowed easily, stories from childhood, embarrassing moments, dreams for the future. I want to start my own event planning business, Zara admitted over tiramisu. Premier occasions is great, but I want to build something that's mine. Something that celebrates diversity and brings communities together. You'd be excellent at that. I don't know if I can manage it with a baby. You can. With the right support system. Minho leaned forward. I'd like to be part of that support if you'll let me. Not financially, I know you want to build this yourself. But in other ways. Connections, introductions, someone to watch Lily when you have evening events. That's very generous. It's selfish actually. I want reasons to see you. To be part of your life. Zara felt warmth bloom in her chest. I'd like that too. As they walked home, Minho insisting on escorting her despite the security he'd arranged, they talked about the future. Not in grand, sweeping terms but in small, realistic ones. Another date next week. Meeting Ji-Yun, Minho's sister, who'd been wanting to thank Zara properly. Slowly building something real. At her apartment door, Minho paused. Thank you for giving me this chance. For not writing me off as the dangerous criminal who complicated your life. Thank you for being patient. For letting me heal. Zara touched his hand. I don't know where this is going, Minho. But I'm willing to find out. That's all I could ask for. He kissed her hand, old-fashioned sweet, and walked away. Zara watched until he was gone, then went inside to find Lydia giving her a knowing look. "Don't say it, Mama. I'm not saying anything. But baby girl? I think you might have found something special." "Maybe. We'll see." "Yes," Lydia agreed. "You will." 1 year later, Zara stood in her new office, sleek, modern, in a building she co-owned with 2 other entrepreneurs. ZW Events had launched 3 months ago and was already booked solid for the next 6 months. She'd found her niche: multicultural celebrations that honored heritage while bringing communities together. Lily, now 18 months old, was thriving in daycare and spending weekends alternating between Derek's apartment and adventures with Uncle Minho. Though both Zara and Minho knew that relationship was evolving into something deeper, they'd moved slowly as promised. Dates leading to relationship leading to Minho being an integrated part of her and Lily's lives. He was still a crime boss, that hadn't changed, but he'd kept his promise about honesty. She knew what he did, understood the risks, and had made peace with loving a complicated man. Because she did love him. Had admitted it 6 months ago on a quiet evening watching Lily sleep, and he'd said it back without hesitation. "I love you, Zara Williams. I love your strength, your kindness, your fierce protection of your daughter. I love who you've become and who you've helped me try to be." They weren't living together. Both agreed it was too soon, especially with Lily still adjusting to her world. But they were building towards something, a future that honored both their needs and Lily's well-being. Derek had become a reliable co-parent, though he'd never fully forgiven himself. He'd completed his treatment, maintained his sobriety from gambling, and was slowly rebuilding his medical career. His relationship with Zara was cordial, friendly even. And he'd surprised everyone by being genuinely supportive of her relationship with Minho. "He's good for you," Derek had said during a custody handoff. "He sees you the way I should have. I'm glad you found that." Beatrice had become an active grandmother, bridging the gap between past and present with grace. Lydia visited monthly, alternating between Baltimore and New York, delighted to watch her daughter flourish. Now, standing in her office with the city spread out before her, Zara reflected on the past year. She'd survived betrayal, homelessness, premature labor, and a gang war. She'd found strength she didn't know she possessed. She'd learned to forgive without forgetting, to trust without naivety, to love without losing herself. Her phone buzzed. Minho asking if she wanted to meet for lunch in the park. Lily was with Derek, the afternoon was clear and she had nothing but time. "Yes," she texted back. "The spot where we had our first real conversation?" "The spot where I asked you for a second chance," he replied. "I'll bring the blanket." Zara smiled, grabbed her coat, and headed out into the bright spring day. Somewhere in this city, Sung-Ho Choi sat in a prison cell. Derek wrestled with demons but showed up for his daughter. Lily grew stronger and smarter each day. And Zara Williams, survivor, mother, entrepreneur, and partner to one of New York's most complicated men, walked toward her future with her head held high. It wasn't the life she'd planned on that New Year's Eve when Derek had thrown her into the snow. It was something completely different. Messier, more complex, harder to explain at parties. But it was hers. Built from ashes and frost and the kindness of a stranger who'd stopped his car on a snowy night. And that made it perfect. In the end, Zara learned that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead to the best versions of ourselves. That betrayal can be a gateway to freedom. That freezing on a street corner can be the beginning of a new chapter, if you're brave enough to turn the page. She learned that family isn't always blood, that redemption is possible but must be earned, and that love comes in unexpected forms, sometimes in the shape of a Korean crime boss with a code of honor and eyes that see you truly. Most importantly, she learned that she was strong enough to survive anything, build anything, become anything she chose to be. And as she walked through Central Park toward the man who'd saved her life and then stepped back to let her rebuild it on her own terms, Zara Williams smiled. Because this wasn't just a new beginning. It was a hard-won triumph. And she was ready for whatever came next.